So today you're going to hear an amazing podcast. Dr. Arthur Burnett has been a physician at Johns Hopkins for over 40 years. He has done medical service work in Africa and the Caribbean, just such an inspiring and a genuine gentleman of a physician. And I'm so thankful that he took the time to do this. If you are a doctor who says, I'm a little bit burned out, I'm tired of all the chores of medicine and some of these things that kind of get us a little bit frustrated and burned out, this is a good episode to listen to. Dr. Burnett's got a very practical approach on how to address some of these difficult parts of medicine, but how to stay engaged in something that's such a unique career. And I'm delighted and excited to be able to share this episode with you, and I hope you'll really enjoy it. Welcome to the Doctors Making a Difference podcast, where we help physicians to be empowered with the tools they need to be successful in medicine, in finance, and in life. Join us as we highlight doctors and other professionals around the world who are making a difference. So today I'm excited to welcome Dr. Arthur Burnett. Dr. Burnett has been a doctor at Johns Hopkins for a lot of years. He's a urologist. He's done international work and has a lot of information that he can tell us as to our fellow physicians. So I'm excited to have you today, Dr. Burnett. Do you mind telling us about yourself? Introduce yourself to the audience.
I'm delighted to do so, and thank you for welcoming me. Call me Bud.
You bet.
Keeping it casual. Call me Bud. So I happen to be a urologic surgeon here at Johns Hopkins. I'm broadcasting here from my office between surgeries. So I'm an active surgeon, but I'm a surgeon scientist. And that means I run a research laboratory, have been very involved in discovery and bringing forward new science and advances in our field. But my focus is men's health, urology, and I've done that for many years. So thank you for allowing me to be part of your program today.
Oh, excited to have you do it. Walk us through it, because people listening range across the entire spectrum of physicians. Some are medical students, some are residents, some are attending physicians who've been in it for quite a few years. So just briefly, how did you become a urologist at Johns Hopkins? It's a prestigious place to work and a really interesting career path.
Yes. I consider what I've been able to do here at Johns Hopkins, as well as other aspects of my career profession, that have been a series of opportunities, and then recognizing these opportunities and then taking the time to understand that, appreciate that, and make the most of these opportunities. I came to Johns Hopkins following undergraduate, and then came here to medical school. And then from medical schools, I did well enough to continue a faculty position, and then for many years doing that. My journey, I think, began with just interest back in my teenage years, as to say, you know what, I think I have an aptitude for medicine. I'm the first in my family to go as far as medical school. So really early humble beginnings. I was an Army ROTC cadet to even get through undergrad, and then I was able to go to medical school. I do very well, and then surgery suited me and met my talents, and then urology is kind of a sub-discipline within surgery, and I could see where I could make some impact in the field, where I thought men's health was such an important area to try and make advances in. I thought there was a lot of discovery to be made in that discipline, if you will. And also the other thing I'm very keen about is prostate cancer, which disproportionately affects men of minority backgrounds, in which I thought that I'd have a role over many years, and that has indeed played out. So you can see a number of factors came into play, nothing too spectacular, but just taking advantage of opportunities, giving opportunities to be at the best places I was able to excel and continue on.
If you think about it, at least when I talk to my colleagues, most of them have a story kind of like that. We grew up not as a physician, not in a family where there were doctors. Some people did, but a lot of people said, I want to make a difference. I want to help other people. I think I have an aptitude. And so you kind of match a skill set with your natural aptitude. And then you go on to make this tremendous difference for thousands and thousands of patients. And it sounds like you've done that. Did you say you've been at Hopkins for 43 years? Is that right?
That is correct. So I came here to medical school about 43 years ago. And frankly, I don't want to kind of derail the conversation too much. I was an Army officer, and I got deferments initially. And then once I completed residency, where I actually did some of the discovery work behind Viagra as a resident, believe it or not, it was very clear that I was going to be a different kind of urologist, a urology surgeon scientist. It was clear to my chairman that, hey, your commission needs to stay at Hopkins. And next thing I know, I was getting honorable discharges saying I'd been in the reserves for about 10 years, just carry on as a surgeon at Johns Hopkins.
No, it's neat. And think about the incredible work you've been able to do with patients at Johns Hopkins at the hospital. But even more than that, talk us a little bit through some of your international work. A lot of people say, I'm so busy in my own job and so busy taking care of people here, I don't have a lot of capacity to take this skill set elsewhere. But you're one of those unique souls who have said, I think I can take this to people where they're at and meet the most needy people in the world a lot closer to where they live. So do you mind talking I know that's
Oh,
a huge
yeah.
journey, but tell us a little bit about that.
I'm glad to share some of that. They've been blessed in so many ways, not just to have go to medical school, but also to be able to maximize talents as a scientist, whereby I've been able to make a lot of discoveries. I mentioned the Viagra story. I mentioned as well some of the other innovations I've done, including even the penile transplant that I was a lead
Mhm.
urologic surgeon for here for years. And in doing that, well, the one thing I appreciated is that to bring forward advances, not just in our communities or even regionally, we can do things around the world and recognizing what kinds of discoveries are possible while also in a humanitarian way elevate the best care where there have been underserved populations. So I bring all that together with some discovery work. I do a lot of work in the Caribbean, do a lot of work in Africa. I travel all over the world where there are underserved populations, not just to be a surgeon and teach and then bring the best care within populations, but also new science and new discoveries. I'll give you an example. In Nigeria, I've been able to bring forward with some collaborators some of the new science behind treating a disorder called priapism, okay, a urologic condition of prolonged erections, in patients where in sickle cell disease it's very common. And we think about sickle cell disease as being a condition that, yes, we're aware of it. About 100,000 individuals in the United States have sickle cell disease. To give you some sense of just the prevalence of it elsewhere, in Nigeria, there's 150,000 births a year with sickle
Mm.
cell disease. And so the prevalence of some urologic conditions are so great in other places around the world that if we can actually bring discovery work, science in my lab, we figured out the science of priapism, we figured out new treatments based on the science, and we're rolling it out with populations where it has impact. So you're right. I not only just think of taking care of patients patient by patient here and around the world, but also bringing forward discoveries and then working with teams throughout the world, not just to train them, but also help get them engaged in discovery work, get them engaged in how we can make advances that'll have impact, not just from their region where it's prevalent, but maybe teach us all around the world where these prevalent conditions exist.
Absolutely. Maybe rewind a little bit. How did you first do it? A lot of people listening say, hey, I'd love to go help people in another place, or I'd love to be able to take
Yeah.
the time to do that. But you're busy, you're in debt, you got all these things. And you say, how could I possibly do it? And it's something I feel like I've been really privileged. I've been able to do some work in Uganda and Ecuador, and I've just found that so meaningful in my own life, and I've loved it. But the majority of people listening have never done that. The majority of our fellow physicians have not really spent time overseas and say, how do I even start? I don't know what I would even do. So walk us through it. Did you just happen into it, or was it purposeful? Or how did it initially start where you started going to do international work?
Sure. It's actually been very purposeful. Much of how you get started is, do you have the passion to want to do this? And I think if any of us get engaged in some of these kinds of activities, the rewards are so great. The lessons that you learn, I consider the interactions I've had with many of these experiences to be very bidirectional. And I always feel like I'm taking away more from the experience than what the host country may be thinking they're doing, just in terms of helping me just be grounded, help me just understand what's valuable, help me understand what really impacts patients' lives. All these kinds of lessons are just so amazing. But I get started with it, I think, early on with some international experiences, traveling with meetings, engaging with those in my specialty, other places, hosting even students from other countries to come and spend elective time with me and just building
Mhm.
relationships over time. And so this dates back to my early faculty years here at Johns Hopkins with that kind of at least approach that or formula, if you will, it seemed
Yeah.
to have allowed that happening. And then I have gone farther now to start my own nonprofit called Euro Missions Works, an LLC. And a number of patients of mine understand what I do. Some have helped me fund it. I fund it myself, and and just to maybe take it to a level that's far greater than maybe some of your audience wants to do this. But if you have some opportunities to understand where there's some connections or where there are other colleagues saying, yes, I do this, and maybe come on a trip with us, maybe take advantage of that if you can.
Yeah, I agree with you. Just to reflect on what you said, when I've done international work, I always come back feeling like I got more out of it than I gave because I donate the time and we pay for the flights. And a lot of times we're providing some of the medical stuff. And so there's a financial and a time expense, but I come back every time saying I gained more from this than I gave. It sounds like you've discovered much the same.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I tell you, In our society here in the United States, everybody seems so troubled. There may be many explanations behind that. I'll put that aside for a moment, but just when you go other places where, the most basic way of living is shown, where relationships count, where people just enjoy each day, they value these interactions. I think it's very refreshing in many instances.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to go on too much of a sidebar, but it is really interesting. It's not about how much stuff you have. It's about having a sense of purpose and people around you that you love. And you need to have the basics. You got to have enough to eat and drink and take care of the people you love. But you're not going to be happier by having more stuff. So it's a really interesting reflection for sure when you travel to folks that have very little by worldly standards.
Oh, absolutely. You just said it beautifully. I think that probably is the unfortunate standard or measure which we have in our society that really exists in many underprivileged locations. And they're some of the happiest people I've ever seen in some of these travels, and how much they help each other. And the other thing I'll just make a remark on is it teaches us as physicians something that I think is a real important lesson. The physicians in these communities are so civic-minded. They're so thoughtful about what they can do for their common citizens and neighbors. They will actually buy medicines, bring in IV bags, do whatever it takes to just make sure that their fellow person is achieving their best health. And boy, I can't tell you how impactful those kinds of things that I witness, that it helps me just stay grounded in what our purpose should be. And that's where I derive a lot of purpose, things from experiences like that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Would you mind talking specifically, what do you do with Euro Missions Works? I know you went early on in your faculty days, it sounds like, and you had an opportunity to mentor students that would come to work with you at Johns Hopkins. And then you've branched out and done some of your own work that's self-funded, and you're trying to take this. What do those missions look like? And is it just you, or do you take a team? What kind of work are you doing?
Yeah, I do take teams occasionally. Otherwise, I may just bring one physician here or there with some special purposes here and there. I'll give you an example. Down in the Caribbean, which is not too far from where you are in the United States, in our same kind of region, if you will. I was dismayed 25 or so years ago of going down there with some interaction medically, and to learn that urologic care there, I think, was not as good as it could be. It was acceptable, but not great. I learned that for a population of 3 million people in Jamaica, there are 16 urologists. There were more urologists here at Johns Hopkins, one hospital center, than that whole country. And then I was able to see patients that they asked me to get involved with some of their surgeries who were living with diversionary tubes and things like that for years, because nobody would have the opportunity or time to be able to fix some of these more serious things that they were living with. And so I took upon myself to say, you know what, the University of West Indies, which is the main center for training urologists right there in Kingston, Jamaica, that I would start going down there 3 or 4 times a year, which I've done now for about 20 years, and just spend a week at a time working with, helping them redevelop their urology training program, elevate how they brought it forward with urologic care, helping bring the American Urologic Association to Jamaica with supplies and other needs where other urologists are retiring and discarding their supplies. And we have built the manpower and the services in urology through Jamaica, then dispersed throughout the Caribbean in amazing ways the past 20 or so years, and to have seen that come to fruition is such a reward. And so that's kind of the impact and how it's done, how I'm done, and realizing that, yeah, there was a need, and I've been able to bring that to be part of my career all these years.
I've observed the same. And it's really interesting when you couple the training with, you go and do this service and you're helping people and you're getting a lot of great feelings and positive feedback from it. But think about the impact that has. You could go and do surgery on a few people, a handful, or maybe if you went many times, you could get a few hundred people that you'd help. But if you scale that impact by training people, now you're impacting probably thousands and thousands of people that have been through that training process and elevate the level of care across that entire region. That's awesome.
Right. And that exactly was the rationale in all this, that I can go down there and just do complex surgeries periodically, but it's short-lived. And short-lived meaning that how many years can any surgeon do that? 20 years, 25 years. And so if I can keep training and bring knowledge and work with them to develop surgeons to be more specialized, they don't have to be too specialized. You don't have to do things like I'm doing, like penile transplants and major reconstruction, but let's just get their best urologic care. Then that you can see that in manifold ways goes a lot further, because now that person can be the best person right there in these locations to carry out urologic interventions and best management.
So have you done that work primarily through your affiliation with the university and the hospital, Or is most of this stuff where you said, I just need to spend my own personal vacation time and go be down there and fund this? Or how have you constructed it?
I've done this in collaboration because I think that always works well
Yeah.
with the University of West Indies. I know the urology leaders that have been brought through the university system there. So it's almost like I have an adjunct role there, although I have never asked them to finance anything that I'm doing. And I even try to just routinely bring supplies and things there without any request that they finance any of that. So I just make it all happen, but do it in a collaborative way.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you do regular work in the Caribbean. That's relatively close as far as world travel. When you do the work in Nigeria or other places in Africa, it's a lot more of a time commitment as far as travel. We've done some work, like I mentioned, in Uganda, and it's wonderful. But by the time you get there, it's 20 something hours of flying, and then you're pretty jet lagged that first day. And there's only so much you can accomplish. So we try to build systems there that don't really depend on us coming, but we come and support and help and try to train the people there locally to carry that work on. How have you found that to work when it's far away places like in Nigeria? Do you go quite often, or how often do you have to go and support that work?
Yeah, so my trips over there have been less frequent. They are once or twice a year. They may be a little longer time when I go. And they do require a lot of preparation, but they also involve kind of constant interactions. So I have interactions with a group that I had mentioned that I do some collaborative scientific work, but also has impact on the ground. But I have interactions, thank heavens, we're in a modern age here of even being able to do Zoom calls, even internationally. And I do that on a weekly basis with them. So we keep a lot of regularity going at all times, such that I'm informed of kind of what they're doing as we train. Again, like we train our residents here, you let the leash out a little bit further each time and let them become more and more independent, but we still stay collaborative and keep a kind of a regular interaction. And that's worked for me to have regularity of interaction. It's even from a distance.
I think it's amazing. I know you're living it, so it seems like it's routine. But when I tell you, the people that are listening are saying you talk to somebody and dedicate time on a Zoom call every week for unpaid work overseas. You don't donate time 3 or 4 times a year to travel to an international location. You're advising them on a regular basis. It all takes a lot of time. It's super fulfilling. A lot of people I talk to say, I'm up to here on time and I feel like I'm in debt and I feel like I can't even catch up and keep up with my life. So I guess as I'm unpacking this, I'm just thinking, this is incredible. How do you find the time to do it? And how do you find the stamina to keep doing it after all these years?
Sure. It does speak to the fact that I probably do push the limits. And I'll be honest about that, but more than most people do. Not trying to be any kind of macho man or anything like that, but I think that some of us, do have maybe the blessings of great stamina, great physical abilities and so forth. And I think I'm blessed that way. I think I get my adequate rest. I do my adequate fitness things. So I'm not compromising my health, I don't think. So I want the group to know that nobody should be thumping their chest about, how little sleep they get and how much they can get by on just a Snicker bar a day or something crazy. So I do as regular, but it's just that I have learned how to be efficient with my time to collaborate well. I've used that term a number of times. So I'm not doing everything solely. I certainly have, I think, a sense of how to coordinate my time to where I put things in compartmentalized ways at different times. I just know I got to give my focus to certain things at a certain time and then put things down otherwise. And indeed, I don't take as much monthly or yearly vacations that other people do. I'm doing my vacations, maybe some of these other things, but I do find time with family and make it all happen. But it's just been a lifestyle that I've been able to work well and work. And sometimes you just start to fit things in and then do it with some regularity and it works out. So really that's my formula. I'm not sure whether there's anything spectacular I said there. I don't know if there's any nuggets of some sort of super wisdom of some sort, but it's just a matter here, I think, of realizing this is part of my life that I find brings me such joy and pleasure towards that I just make it all work.
Like I say, I want to just reflect on it as the podcast is called Doctors Making a Difference. And sometimes it's easy to read about somebody or we put somebody and said, oh, this is somebody somewhere far away that did this interesting thing, but you're doing it. And it's not something you just read about. You've been doing it for decades. And so I'm personally really impressed. And I think our audience will say, whoa, this is something we didn't just go on a service trip once and put that in my journal. You said, I'm just going to bake this into my life. This is just part of the thing. These are my friends across overseas or in different locations and have these genuine friendships. And of course I talk to them. I would miss them if I didn't. And anyway, I think it's really impressive. And also the fact that you didn't just do it for a couple of years. You've been doing it for decades now. Really difficult, but also very impressive for sure.
No, the way you describe it, it makes it sound awesome.
It is awesome.
I'm kind of thinking, all right, maybe it is. I don't know. I'm just doing things that is part of what I do in my life, and I feel relaxed about it. Again, I feel blessed. I'm thankful that I've got good energy and stamina and good health to do all of it.
I think all of us doctors have busy jobs. No matter what you're doing, you're right in the middle of the details of somebody's life, trying to help them get better with whatever skill set you bring. But I think the thing that keeps us going, sort of the fuel of a physician, is the fact that you're helping somebody. And if you spend all your time thinking about insurance prior authorizations and documenting in your electronic health record, you get burned out real quick. But if you say, hey, I'm helping somebody that is in real need and I have a skill that I can use to help them get from point A to point B and help them in their life, boy, that keeps you coming back again and again. And then you don't worry so much about all the other things that drive us nuts.
No doubt, I think as physicians, we do have all these chores to do that go beyond
Chores.
residency.
Yeah,
But
chores.
I try to keep things balanced. To find that having these variety of things I do, from being a surgeon with that craft, discovery work, always excited with that, teaching residents, seeing just their development, deriving some enjoyment from that, doing some of the humanitarian activities. All these things kind of balance each other. Fortunately, the drudgery and the chores that kind of start to fade a little bit when all these things are put in perspective.
I'm going to start calling them chores. I like it. Got to keep the chores done. So let's shift for just a second. A lot of the audience are early stage physicians, folks who
Yeah.
say, I'm a medical student, or I'm an intern, or maybe even a pre-medical student. What would you tell someone about the specialty of urology? People say, oh, I don't know if I could do urology. It sounds hard, or it's a long residency, or there's all sorts of different people that look in different things. And you've been able to find something that kind of fits your aptitude, your interest. And I'm just interested in, when you started out as a young man who said, I think I'd like to become a doctor, you became a urologist and you've been able to do all this stuff. What would you tell someone who's early on in their career, or maybe considering urology as a career, on what are some of the pros and cons of that as a specialty?
No doubt, any subspecialty in surgery or even general surgery takes some time. So for young people, yes, I think that, yes, our careers can be long in some ways. And maybe there's just a sense that you got to put a little skin in the game early on if that's really what you think is your destiny. I kind of knew that I wanted to be a surgeon in medical school. I just didn't see myself in other subspecialty areas.
Uh-huh.
And then just for a young person, just to know that you have to dedicate yourself early on to certain activities to get you to where you could then kind of take off from there. It's one of these old adage of you got to lead from within, you can't lead from without. So you got to go through medical school, do well in that, enjoy the moments of your training on with your fellow residents, but be focused on that for those years. Yes, it's a 6-year training program in urology, surgery, and then urology. You give those years, you do what you have to do, and then kind of look forward to maybe the next 30 years of a career to follow. But stay focused on what you're doing, do a good job with that. See what some of us senior guys or guys a little further down the road are doing, but don't get too ahead of yourself. Just take it a step at a time. But if it's really what you want, don't give up on your dream, but stay with it. And then just build it from there. I know a lot of my junior faculty and others say, how do you accomplish so much? And again, I know you said that already, how accomplished I've been. But really, this is just a career that builds over time. What I do is not what I did when I walked out of residency. It took time to build to where I am now. They just accept that reality and just build on things gradually, taking on small bites and then bigger bites as time goes on.
That's good advice. It's interesting when I talk to pre-med students, or even if I talk to my kids or relatives, they say, oh, it's such a long road. I don't know if I could do that. And my counterpoint is, if that's what you're made to do, a lot of people consider being a doctor almost a calling. If that's something that just really elevates you and you find that's a powerful thing in your life, do it, because the opportunity will not come back again later. Do it when you're young and get it done. And when you think about the number of years, if you say, I'm going to be in my mid-30s by the time I get done with my training, you're going to be in your mid-30s by that time, no matter what you do. So if it's something that really fulfills you and you want to do it, and if there's something that, if you're the kind of person that just says that sounds terrible and I don't even like being a doctor and I just wanted it because somebody told me I would make a lot of money being a doctor, then find something else, because you're not going to find joy in it. But a lot of people, if you find that calling and you want to do it, man, what an impressive, amazing career that you can have, and help tremendously with just thousands and thousands of people. And you've been able to do that through your career.
Oh, absolutely. If I could be an example of that, let me be that person. But I think you're absolutely right. If you go in a different direction, whatever it may be, certainly I'm going to be proud of anybody, no matter what direction they go in. But you're right. The years will come and you got to do something by the time you're getting in your 30s. But when you finish your training, gosh, you still got a good few decades, I hope, with every person to really develop that further and do something that's as fulfilling as that as this can be. If you see what some of us who've done it now for years are trying to describe to you, just stay on that path. Just stay on it.
Yeah.
You'll do.
Oh, that's great. I appreciate you sharing it. One of the things I wanted to ask as it relates to that is a lot of people get about somewhere between 12 to maybe 18 years into the career, somewhere a little bit mid-career, and they get frustrated by all the chores. And they say, I'm in debt, or I feel like I can't get ahead, or I'm not able to find some time to spend with my family. And so people, they feel like they've got to really scale back or they've got to change, or some people just leave medicine altogether because they get overwhelmed by that stuff. And so I wanted to hear about any advice you have as far as your ability to stay in medicine, stay engaged, because you've been able to do it over a long career and it's no cakewalk. It's difficult. So how have you been able to do it, to find the stamina and energy to continue in a difficult career for this period of time?
I guess a couple of things. One is that I truly do value having achieved what I had done in medicine. As I mentioned, I came from very humble beginnings, had to make my way through school. So for me, in a personal way, I think that I've been able to achieve something here that's really special, very privileged to me to be able to take care of people and impact their lives. And so I reflect on that and understand that certainly is a driving factor, at least for me personally. At least for others, I think you also might want to think about that we have a specialty that is so special, so unique. Many other people have walks of life where things can't be quite as fulfilling. We're taking care of people's lives and seeing them thrive. Yes, we have a lot of responsibility. Yes, we have a lot of up and down days, the level of our intensity of our kind of work. But I sometimes just meditate for a little bit and then recognize that we have real, almost a blessing, the career opportunities we've had. And that to me has been fulfilling in that regard. Lastly, I would say that being a physician really is a specialty that gives you a lot of versatility. Okay, just for a moment now, we can go off and do other things if you want. Go off and be a consultant. Go off and do humanitarian work if you're able to do it or want to do it. Go off and do some advocacy work. Go off and do some teaching here and there. Maybe figure out some other directions to go in, having that MD degree or a DO degree or whatever you have. This is something that really other walks of life, other career positions don't always easily allow you to do. I write books even. That's another thing I do. I'm writing another book on men's health. So I think we have so many different directions we can go in as physicians. I consider it as a great privilege to have gone through medical school and bring your knowledge, even as a physician in your specialty area. There's got to be opportunities out there, a variety of kinds, even if it's walking away from patient care for a while. Look for these opportunities and find some fulfillment. And really, my word is be grateful, maybe, that we've got a career that allows us to have some.
That's good advice. Be grateful, understand how versatile that degree actually is, and you can capitalize on the experience you have no matter what your specialty is. And hopefully you find your way back to patient care eventually. But if you need to leave patient care and do something that's adjacent to medicine, there's a lot of opportunities, like you said. Anyway, I think it's interesting to read about stuff, but I think it's even more interesting to talk to people who have done it, who are doing it and are in it for decades like you have been. Anyway, I know somebody listening will listen to this and say, man, I'm inspired. I want to be able to have that kind of impact through my career, and I'll power through the chores so that I can have the impact. And just to reflect on one other thing, it is a position of great personal privilege to say I'm so involved in the details of somebody's life and they count on me in my own life. I'm so thankful for the doctors that have helped me, and I've spent tens of thousands of hours. So when it was my moment to need surgery, my moment to need help, I'm so thankful for those docs that have spent thousands and thousands of hours so that they're ready to do it. And so we do have this really unique position as physicians. I really appreciate your reflections on that.
Yep. Yeah. And I take that to heart. I think that's something that I know it sounds flowery and then maybe just too fantastic to really be believed, but I think these are true words. I think I've sensed that.
So we talked about the Euro missions works and the work that you're doing. Are there ways that other doctors who are listening, maybe there's another urologist listening or other who says, hey, I really want to get involved. Is there a place that someone could go and say, I want to learn more about this? Or do you take other doctors with you? Or how can other people get involved in the work you're doing or similar work?
Yeah. So among urologists, certainly our national organizations like the American Urologic Association, get on a website there. The American Urology Association has a foundation that really has a lot of humanitarian connections. So certainly a resource that for me, you can look up my name, drarthurnd.com, and missionsworks.com as well. Websites here at Johns Hopkins. So you can just quickly look up Johns Hopkins Urology and find me. So if there's any sense that somebody wants to connect, that'd be fine. But there are a world of opportunities in so many different directions. Outside urology, those in various other disciplines probably have similar sorts of outlets they can pursue. There may be other organizations you can look up, church organizations, community organizations, so there's lots of things to get involved. We feel like maybe that's something that might expand your sense of what you want to do in life. So these are directions I might suggest.
Yeah, no, thank you for your suggestion and for sharing that. I want to just, as we wrap up, think about just a little bit of a call to action, because again, you've demonstrated this career, this path that allows you to build all these different angles into it and find things that are fulfilling. So if you're a doctor and you're listening and you're saying, hey, I'm not finding my joy in my job anymore because I'm so overwhelmed by all the chores, or I need to change something. Try going on an international service trip. Just try it once or twice. That's something that for me has rekindled my joy in medicine. And I've been able to stick with it for about 10 years or so. And I hope I keep doing it for as long as you have, Dr. Burnett. I think that's amazing to be able to do it for decades like you have. It's a really wonderful way to get involved and helping people. You're not doing it for financial profit. You're doing it because you're there to help people in a really pure and straightforward way. And it's admirable.
I appreciate your kind words. And yeah, these sort of things I think you do, knowing that you're not going to get a lot of appreciation, but that's not what counts. As long as you feel a sense of fulfillment for it, that's the right thing.
Awesome. Well, thank you for spending the time today. And I look forward to following your work and keeping in touch. And I appreciate you taking the time to share that. Thank you so much.
It's my delight to be part of your program. And please let your audience hopefully derive something of substance from this and carry on with their best lives as well.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning into the Doctors Making a Difference podcast. And thank you for what you do to help your patients and your community. Your work truly helps so many people. We produce this content to help you have the tools you need to stay in medicine and to highlight the amazing work being done by physicians around the world. Please note that while I am a physician, and many of the guests on this program are also physicians or other professionals, the discussions on this podcast do not represent my employer or any professional organizations to which I belong. This podcast is for your information and entertainment only, and should not be taken as professional advice. You should seek appropriate professional advice pertaining to your own situation. Please check out more of our content on our website, doctorsmakingadifference.com. Also, please follow, like, or subscribe on your podcast player or YouTube channel, and give us a 5-star rating. It really helps to spread the message. Finally, if you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, or if you'd like to nominate someone else to be a guest, please visit the website or email admin@doctorsmakingadifference.com. See you next time.